was like, you've probably got 3 or 4 months to live.
I'm listening to you now and I'm thinking, there is probably a 9 times out of 10 chance that I have definitely worked with and disturbed a couple of different types of asbestos without realising, without knowing. Today we're going to be finding out about the dangers of asbestos. We're going to be chatting to a chap called Martin, who is suffering from mesothelioma and has unfortunately been given a limited amount of time left to live. So let's get into it. Pleasure to meet you, buddy.
How you doing?
I'm James.
Hi, James.
Yeah, I'm alright. So Martin, you've been diagnosed with mesothelioma.
Yeah, that's right.
When?
12 months ago.
Been diagnosed 12 months ago. How did the diagnosis come about?
I had a health check at work in the back of a van on the works car park. And I couldn't blow into their machine. I hadn't got no power in my lungs.
What work were you doing?
I was actually teaching carpentry at a college.
What was the next step after that?
X-rays, and then I'll go and see a consultant. And that's when they said, oh, we're going to drain fluids. I'm thinking, fluid, where? From your lung. They took me off into a room, stuck a needle in my back and drained about 2 litres of fluid off.
2 litres of fluid?
Yeah, and I was like, well, you've taken that much off my lung, yeah? And that was to say, well, that's a sign of mesothelioma. And I had to do that 2 more times after that, about a fortnight apart.
At that point, did they know what had caused the mesothelioma?
It's caused by asbestos.
Mm-hmm. What did they tell you during the diagnosis? Did they say you've got a limited time left with us? Did they say you can do these things to try and prolong it or to try and recover? Is there a cure at the moment, or is it just a kind of the fact of you've got this is what it is, and this is how long it's going to be before? You know.
They did say it's terminal.
It is terminal.
It is terminal. It was like, you've probably got 3 or 4 months to live. At which point, it was, oof. Right, okay.
And this is at what age?
61.
At 61, you've got 3 months left to live.
And they did say, okay, 3 or 4 months, we have got options that you can do. There's chemotherapy, possible immunotherapy, but that wasn't available to people on the NHS at the time. But it's available private, but that's £120,000 a year. And it's a 2-year programme for that. There's no way I've got that sort of money. And they said, oh, Leicester is a centre of excellence for mesothelioma. They do an operation. You're right for it. Age-wise, I'm perhaps a little bit younger than what a lot of people are that actually get diagnosed with it. So, do you want to go up to Leicester, see their consultants and see about the operation they can do? I said, yeah, I've got nothing to lose. They remove the lung, they strip the pleural off it, and that's hopefully taking away any asbestos that's in there. Bearing in mind you can't actually see it because it's like 100 times finer than a human hair.
How long did that prolong your life?
At the moment, I'm 9 months down the line and no further medication at the moment, which is great.
How does it affect your mental health, or are you trying to see it in a positive light?
You've got to be positive with it. You've got to, I've had anxiety and stuff with it, where it was like Christmas time when my daughter announced that she was pregnant, and it was hoping that I'll still be alive for when he's born in July.
Did it take a while for you to become at peace with it, or have you felt moments of like anger, why me, frustration?
A little bit at times, especially when I see folk I used to work with.
Who were doing the same things as you
the same.
that's caused this?
He'd be there, he was a carpenter with me.
Yeah.
He was the one teaching me. I was doing, well, I'm not necessarily always doing the cutting, but I've got this and he's fine, and he's spoken with some others that are fine as well, and you think, well, why me?
Now you are living through it, what would you say to tradespeople who thinks, oh, it's just a little sheet, I'll put a mask on and I'll pick it up and I'll dispose of it and wrap it up?
It's to think what you're doing and don't touch it. And the thing is, folk don't know where it is.
Absolutely, yeah.
Or you say, if there's asbestos in the building, where? We had it, the roof at the college was asbestos. I said, that asbestos is fine, as long as you don't disturb it.
What is the biggest piece of advice or one final message that you'd like to say to tradespeople to prevent this from happening?
It's just think about what you're actually doing and what you're working with. and what type of building you're in. It's hidden.
Martin, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you today, mate. Thank you very much for your time. Wish you all the best. And yeah, I'm not quite sure what else to say, but thank you.
Nice.
And all the best, mate,
Thank
to you
you.
and your family and your grandson.
Mm.
Okay. Thank you, mate. So we've just had a chat with Martin on site there. We're going to head over to a warehouse now to speak to Paul, who is an asbestos expert. He's going to be telling us all about the dangers of asbestos, where we as builders can find it, and what we can do if we do come across asbestos. Paul, how are we doing? Nice to meet you, buddy.
Nice to meet you.
And James. So you've been here today, Paul, in this warehouse doing an asbestos survey.
That's right, mate, yeah. Doing an investigation, having a look around, looking at suspicious materials, and we have found asbestos materials.
So we're among asbestos right now?
You're sat in a building that does contain asbestos, yes. Providing it's not disturbed, it's in a good condition, the building owner now will know about it, so they can manage that asbestos. It's absolutely fine. It's when it's disturbed, the dust then gets released, gets into the air, and you have a potential then to breathe it in. Mm-hmm. That's the issue.
So you've been doing this job a lot longer than I've been alive, believe it or not. So you are well aware of the risks and the factors and what to look for.
At the end of the day, it all comes down to dust. And if dust is released from a product which contains asbestos, it's that dust that causes harm.
How do we make it the norm and filter that down to your tier ones and then your smaller companies and then your domestic builders to make this a much more prominent issue in the industry than what it is at the moment, or what it seems to be at the moment?
There's a couple of things. I mean, the HSE have just recently released a campaign called Asbestos Anew, which is available if you go on the HSE website. But the main point really is, in 2012, we saw the introduction of the control of asbestos regulations that require that all tradespersons are made aware of asbestos. It's a legal requirement that you get training. The same requirement was there in 1987. So, it goes back a long number of years where people must have been told.
And we're still getting problems with it today?
And we still have problems today. In fact, only last week I was training a group of tradies in the north of England, and bearing in mind this is 2023, these guys were in their midlife, so the 40s and the 50s, and they'd never had asbestos training once in their working career.
Wow. What do you think could be the factors that are putting people off? Could it be the cost of the survey, the cost of the removal? Could it be the prolonging the project so that they're not getting the money as fast?
If you're undertaking refurbishment of an older building and you've booked the tradies to come in to do the work, if they're turning up on Monday morning, the last thing you want to do is say to them on Monday morning, sorry guys, we've found asbestos, you can't do your work.
And how long is the process usually between finding asbestos and getting it resolved?
So you could be looking at a month's delay, if not longer, depending on the time it takes to remove the asbestos. A month, 2 months.
And that could be the time scale that that could be the full time scale of the full job.
The full time scale.
And now that's the delay.
So that guy that was turning up on Monday to start work doing the refurbishment has just been told that he ain't working there now for 2 months at least.
And he's now booked up for a year.
Yeah. So you're not going to get him back in 2 months' time. Yeah. And he's lost the money.
Can you put that monetary value on your life?
No. Absolutely not. If you don't mind, I can actually show you some samples of some, if you'd like to see some. They are safe.
They've not been disturbed, have they?
No, they have been tested this morning. They are sealed within an acrylic case.
Let's go for it.
So the first one I'd just like to show you, just so you get the idea of what we're actually talking about, is a sample of chrysotile. And what you need to remember is that this is a rock. It's a lump of stone taken from the earth. It's not a manufactured product. It's a naturally occurring mineral. And what you're looking at there is white asbestos.
Mind if I hold it?
Chrysotile. Yeah, of course you can. Yeah, you can handle it. Yeah. Please don't drop it.
A big claim coming towards me. That just looks like something a farmer's dug up or something.
Very similar to cotton wool. It's a very fibrous, strandy mineral. And you can take that rock, don't forget it's a lump of stone, you can take that and you can weave with it. You can make a cloth from it. Often found in things like flash guards, in electrical units, isolators, breakers, things like that. So you think of the electrician who's going into service some equipment, they open up the distribution board, they pull out the rewirable fuse, and attached to that fuse you'll probably find a white pad. And what they're working with is 100% pure asbestos.
Still today?
Yeah, it's still today. Still in there. Now, if we take a look at the second most common, amosite, this is much more, as most people will recognise it as being a rock or a lump of stone, in that it's quite a a solid mass of material. However, the fibres are easily released. Now, originally, when that was placed in that box many years ago, that was one lump of asbestos. It was one lump, one solid rock.
Yeah, because that didn't look much like a rock.
It didn't look anything like a rock. That's the weird thing about it.
Yeah.
But this one does, the amosite does.
Yeah, it does.
But purely by just being handled by people and it being looked at, you can see how it's breaking down.
Yeah. I'm listening to you now and I'm thinking there is probably a 9 times out of 10 chance that I have definitely worked with and disturbed a couple of different types of asbestos without realising, without knowing. That's the point that I made earlier about this needs to become common knowledge.
It really does. I would 100% guarantee you now that from where we are right now, within a 5-mile radius of this building, there's a builder, a tradesperson today, disturbing asbestos, and they will not know.
You've definitely opened my eyes today, Paul. Thank you very much for your time, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure to chat to you.
Been a pleasure.
And I have learned a lot, and I will take something from today.
Good.
Thank you, mate.
Thank you.